excited.
The Crescent Moon Club, in association with Cyclops Entertainment, in conjunction with MP Productions and ABT, presents Omnibus Unlimited, a roundtable discussion of provocative subjects. Hello everyone, I'm Laurence, Nobile, independent researcher and host of Omnibus Unlimited. Tonight we continue our discussion on the city and nation of Atlantis. We began this subject on our first program. With us again is Tom Murray, psychic healer and medical technician from the Columbus Medical Associates in Boston. Also joining us is Dan Murray, independent researcher from Berlin, Massachusetts, and our own producer of Omnibus Unlimited, John Horrigan. In and out of tonight's show may very well be another independent researcher from Dedham, Massachusetts, Paul Shamman. He's kind of sulking around our main studios here in Dedham. And we're talking about the lost continent of Atlantis. And to begin, I'd like to turn it over to Tom Murray.
Good evening, Larry. How are you doing?
Very well.
Larry, I think the last time we were talking about what we call prehistoric civilizations. And the term prehistory means that we started to write and record something at a certain time, and that there was nothing that we have that was recorded before that. So my other thought is, what was the history before pre-recorded history? And how often do we study our own history and see how rapidly it changes when one government comes to power or another person is elected, that what's the story 1 year is a different story 5 years later. And I think the work that I've probably done the most work on and been the most interested in, for whatever reasons I don't know, are the nations of what were known as Atlantis and Lemuria, which were highly civilized Egyptian type of cultures that we don't have any written history of, but that references to in ancient literature, including the Greek writings, there's references to. But what I find most interesting is from the psychic side is that some famous authors and psychics such as Ruth Montgomery, Hugh Lynn Casey, Edgar Casey, Christopher Ford, and other psychics have often made reference to Atlantis, both as a historical lesson and as a moral lesson. And at the same time, if there's an implication that there is a highly developed culture on a huge continent, a continent probably about the size of Australia, that lay between the western hemispheres of North and South America and Europe, and another culture called Lemuria that lay between the west coast of the United States and Asia, you had two large land masses with highly sophisticated cultures that had transportation by boat, by plane, radio communication, and television. At the same time, it would be pretty logical to assume that if you had that type of civilization, you would also civilize other areas, and that there would be certain recorded histories by various tribes and lesser developed peoples. We find this in people's writings. We also find in every single cultural group, whether a very small tribe in the Amazon jungle, or Egypt, or the Jewish tradition, of the history of what is called a Great Flood, the Great Flood, that there was some type of cataclysmic event that happened on the earth, and it created a tremendous amount of rain, a tremendous amount of seismic activity, we call them earthquakes or whatever, and also either flooding by rising water or tidal waves washing over and destroying the land. Many of the psychics believe, and it's written in the ancient Greek literature, to imply that this was the sinking of what was known as the island of Atlantis. And of course, when Atlantis sank, its culture sank. But the people, as I stated in the last session, had spent many years traveling to the other countries and bringing some of their mathematics, religion, culture, and structural abilities to these other cultures and lands. The moral lesson that a lot of people like to show that Atlantis represents is the lesson of the abuse of the power of technology in the state over individuals, over the government, and over the use of nature. So if we worry about sunspots today, if we worry about atomic energy today, we should also look at Atlantis, because one of the mainstays of their power was a huge crystal. Now, I don't know if this crystal was dug out of the ground or if they manufactured it, but this crystal evidently was similar to what we would call a large atomic power plant, in which it was able to provide enough power for the day-to-day activities of Atlantis that the people were, if you think you have leisure time now, these people were the leisure class of their time. They had a lot of time to study, to think, and to experiment. They also developed, to a very high degree, the techniques of hypnosis. And I find it interesting that I was at a lecture once by a group in which people warned people never to be hypnotized. Now, I'm a licensed hypnotist, and our teaching is that you can't be hypnotized into doing anything that you don't want to do. But I have to wonder if there's things that you might want to do that you don't do, but if you were in the right mood, you would. So it's believed that the people of Atlantis had developed hypnotism to such a level that they often took control of other people's minds to a high degree, and perhaps this is where the first mind-washing or brainwashing groups originated.
Well, that's fascinating, Tom. John, you have something to add?
Yeah, Tom has just provided with us with another smorgasbord of ideas in which we can pick from. Amazing about... Is leisure bad, Tom? Is that what this deity or this external force, or will leisure lead to destruction? I often say that complicated people try to make their lives simple. Simple people try to make their lives complicated.
Okay, Tom, answer that, but let's keep it brief because I want to continue with the Atlantis thing.
Well, I think what it is with leisure time, just like work time, I could build a bomb and blow you up and be very busy, or I could just sit on the hammock and enjoy the sun. But I think it's man's ego and his will, where he thinks he's God or he's the supreme being, and he doesn't have to answer anyone else. That quest for power.
Fascinating. Now, Dan, we're talking about Atlantis. Tom has alluded to a great civilization, far advanced of what we now have. He hasn't mentioned anything about B-52 bombers or anything like that, but certainly he's alluded to television and radio and electricity and mind control and so forth. Dan, what about all this? Are we talking about something which is of this earth or not?
I don't think so. I don't agree with the continent theories, and I do agree with large base areas that they control. And I believe they're coming back. And I don't have the time in one show to explain it all, but...
Oh, excuse me, but when we're talking about they, who is they?
Well, unfortunately, we are caught in between more than one civilization. We have to stop thinking of ourselves as a separate little countries, a little more than feudal cities is all we are. We are one planet, and we have a big problem, and that is we are not alone in this universe, and there are others coming back. They're here all the time, but they're coming back in massive numbers. This is why the military is in non-stop research on UFOs, Atlantis, and other research around the world, most of which they will never, ever admit to, with the exception of Ronald Reagan being the first president to really admit to it in front of the UN some years back. And to allude to that, the Star Wars theory was not built to stop nuclear missiles coming at the United States at all. And if you listen to Ronald Reagan's speech at the UN, he had a UFO experience. And we have two problems in this world. Number one, we are hit by meteors. If there was a continent or a large base area, as I believe, in the Pacific area or Atlantis, if you study the Pacific Ocean basin, it took a tremendous impact from an outside meteor hit, possibly, or bomb, whatever. But we know there was a massive flood afterwards, otherwise known as Great Flood. And if you can picture something hitting the Pacific Ocean large enough to spray the water all over the world, you've got my idea. And create a bigger hole. You would have 40 days of rain and night, or according to that time.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, Dan, but I mean, you know, we're starting to go off a little bit, and I want to continue with the Atlantis thing. Let's assume, I mean, you're alluding to the whole idea. John, you wanted to say something?
I was just saying, well, what Tom mentioned about the biblical flood, and what he just struck upon, I never joined the two. He's saying that the asteroidal impact off the coast of Mexico created dust in the atmosphere, if I'm correct, Dan, and hence the 40 days of rain. That makes sense to me. I've never heard that theory before.
Tom?
Yes, Dan. I kind of agree with the analogy there, in which we're not sure if it's a meteorite or the solar energy being destroyed on Atlantis, but as you state, that impact area is also where Atlantis would have been. And so if you have this destruction and this solar-typed energy, it's the same type of effect you have when an atomic nuclear reactor blows. You have a tremendous amount of solar fallout. You have a tremendous amount of weather that affects people's health and moods and affects plant life. And you have many, many days of rainfall. It's always been noticed that when wars are happening, in combat areas, it rains often. The vibrations from the guns, the sulfur, so forth, explosions in there create the heavy density of clouds and therefore a lot of rainfall. And a large cataclysmic explosion, like a meteorite explosion, would create possibly that 40 days of rain.
Okay, now we're getting off onto the on an explanation for the biblical flood. But now, Dan, getting back to Atlantis, let's assume that you're correct, that these people of Atlantis are, and I'm you know, sort of extrapolating from your statements and your argument, that these people are from another world. Why were they put here? What was their purpose, and where did they go wrong?
Well, I want to clarify one thing. I didn't say that it was a meteorite exactly that hit the Pacific and the Atlantic areas. This very well could have been a war. Something ties this in. It's in the Louvre Museum. It's a picture of Jesus Christ on the cross with two spaceships above in the air shooting at one another. And this goes back to recorded caveman days, these type pictures. So what I'm saying is that we had two civilizations on this planet experimenting, possibly one creating the Chinese or Scandinavian race, another one the Atlantean-style European races and whatnot. As I said, genetic experiments. That's what I believe we are. The problem is, and I think what Ronald Reagan was trying to say without scaring everybody, is that the fact is that these races can come back and attack, and this planet has no defense system whatsoever. Now, if they can wipe out the land themselves and create 40 days of floods throughout the world and wiping out nearly the entire human population, imagine what they can do today.
It's very interesting, and it seems unavoidable that we're going to have to get off the subject of Atlantis because we're just getting into too much more juicy subjects here. John, you wanted to add something?
Well, what Dan said regarding an alien invasion, there's a band, they were formerly Jane's Addiction, they're now Porno for Pyros. They have a song called Pets, which is We Make Great Pets, and it tells about an alien invasion, and the humans, like he says, we couldn't stop an alien invasion, and that is the most closely guarded secret in American and world defense. Star Wars, and I'm gonna drift some more. Star Wars SDI is operative. Do you think we've been flying the shuttle up to see how a plant grows in space, or to see how rubber reacts in zero gravity? We've been deploying military satellites. We have a bead, a necklace, a chain. Whenever they talk about these black programs, programs looking for appropriation. That means it's already built. They talked about stealth in the early 80s when stealth was operational. So when the government says one thing, look in the opposite direction and you'll find the truth.
Okay, okay, John makes the big statement and then sits down. Okay. And leaves it to Larry to decipher. But I'll take up the gauntlet and I'll pass it on to somebody else. Okay, fellas, what are we talking about here? I mean, we're talking about a situation where we are essentially, if I am to take all three of you correctly, we are essentially a band of genetic defects, an experiment by two great alien nations who came to this beautiful blue ball and created us. And if you are correct, I mean, and certainly we've heard in the past when the Eagle landed on the moon and so forth, every time astronauts go up into space, they see bogeys. So what do you think? I mean, is it just an experiment gone bad, or are we a seed from another civilization? Are we intended to prolong another civilization? What the hell's going on here, Dan?
Well, two comments I'd like to make. Number one, there's two theories here. Tom's theory is that Atlantis and this other civilization existed on the Earth, as if to say they were from Earth. What I'm saying is there were two bases here, from two different civilizations, experimenting here and doing whatever it was they're doing. Now imagine that took a lot of time to set these things up and these operations going by my theory. They were destroyed. It's going to take a long time to put it back, and the problem is that we're here now, all over the place. We're much more populated than before, which makes it extremely difficult for them.
But certainly any advanced civilization could certainly just drop one bomb and crack the planet in half and we're gone.
And then they have no planet to work off of. The other thing is, you know, you talk about genetic experiments. Now, I'm a Christian. And let's just look at, I could take the argument of just reading the New Testament. And the angel came down to Mary from the heavens and said, "You will carry a seed, not of man, but of God." And all of a sudden Mary was pregnant without ever having slept with man.
Immaculate conception.
Correct. Or implantation. And that is my point.
Tom.
Hi, I just want to refer to something Dan's mentioned. As you mentioned, Larry, say, well, you know, if the aliens want to get rid of us, just drop the bomb. But coming more from the medical standpoint, when you are doing medical experiments, what you want to do is you create what you call a pure pool. For instance, the laboratory mice. Laboratory mice have been cultivated for generations to have certain genetic defects or strengths depending on what you want to study. For instance, I might have a mouse with an unusually healthy heart because I want to study heart disease, and I have that strain developed. Now, if I wipe out that strain of mice, I have to start my research all over again. So as Dan's saying, if you wipe out the human mice, if that's what we are, experiments, you'd have to start your experiment all over again.
Okay, and once again, if you're just joining us, this is Omnibus Unlimited, a Crescent Moon Club production. I'm Laurence, Nobile, independent researcher and host of Omnibus Unlimited. We started off the program talking about Atlantis, but as is usual with this show, we've gone off onto alien races creating every living thing on this planet. And that's fine, and let's continue with that. Dan, what is your prognosis for the future of what we call human beings on this planet?
It's good, believe it or not. I think we're strong, I think we're diverse, and I think we're good, but I think we have to stop running around saying everybody's the same and everybody's equal. All men are not created equal, never were. What we have to start doing is building upon our strengths and our different strengths and go on from there. We have to stop having different governments, different languages, and cute little cultures. We have to stop the feudal age. There's no difference between the nations of today and the feudal castles of ancient Europe. So it has to end, and we have to get on the ball, and we have to start spending money on exploration to get off this planet if necessary, because it's time to expand, and right now we're going in the opposite direction, or self-suicide.
So you're assuming then that the individuals who seeded us here on this planet are going to allow us to leave it.
Well, from what if you listen to some of the people who claim they have contact with them, they believe that they think we're crazy. Well, maybe they're crazy for letting us be as it is. So who's to say who's crazy? But are we a warrior type people? Yes. Does that bother me? No. If I was them, I'd be looking out. Because if I was in charge, we'd be building stuff everywhere. We would not be sitting still for 5 minutes. And everybody would be working.
Very interesting and very frightening in some ways. Tom, I'll put the same question to you. Obviously, we've been put here by some great nation other than this planet, and here we are. What is your prognosis on our future as a human race, as a race of people? Dan says that we're not created equal. I don't agree with that. I believe we are created equal. We simply develop unequally. But what is your prognosis on our future? Where do we stand? Are the aliens going to destroy us before we can leave, or what do you think?
Well, actually, Larry, I'm going to pull a little cop out here and pretend I'm a medical person again. But I think Dan's meaning of the word equal isn't so much that equal, that one is lesser than another, as he was saying, building on one's strengths. For instance, your culture, I think of the Chinese culture where the people act as a group. So if you need a group effort, that's very valuable. The American culture, which is really a hodgepodge of many races, but the American culture tends to work as an individual. We think of ourselves as an individual. So if you have to go off and do something by yourself, again, that's a strength. And of course, the group is made up of many ones. So I think that's what Dan means by equality, in which that we're not equal in the sense that we each all have different gifts. And instead of looking at race, religion, belief, height, sex, or whatever, does this person have a quality? Does this person have an ability, a skill, a mental ability, a physical strength? Let's use that and let that person exhibit that which makes them valuable to humankind and to themselves. My prognosis as for if there's aliens from outer space, well, we all know that the National Aeronautics and Space Administration is trying to communicate with what they believe are other cultures in outer space. Recently, within the last 2 months, there have been articles in newspapers and magazines in which they believe they are receiving a radio signal from another star. If you want to go more towards the spiritual end of it, what is the nature of God? What is, as my brother says, the nature of an angel? And by that token also, is an alien a fearsome creature from somewhere else, or is an alien a larger manifestation I would give the Earth and the people in it a good prognosis.
So if we are to accept the idea that the people of this Earth were seeded here by another great civilization other than this planet, both of you, I'm assuming, are suggesting that this or these great civilizations are benevolent to a point, and that they will allow us to explore. Tom, you're shaking your head.
I don't think they're totally benevolent. I think they're unemotional. We're emotional beings. We believe in love. We believe that pain hurts. We believe that when you steal my mind and steal my freedom and independence, I'm a troubled person. I think that's what we believe as humans. And the experiences have been found to have unusually and rare genetic problems, and also problems with reproduction and the whole area of their sexual organs. And to me, this is not benevolent.
Okay, Tom, you're talking in terms of individual cases. I'm talking in terms of overall, as a planet of beings. Let's cut to the chase. Do you think that the aliens will allow us to leave the planet and explore our own solar system and the surrounding areas?
They have. John? Not to shout across the room, but they already have. We've already explored our solar system.
Yes and no. As I say, I don't know if there's aliens, but if they are out there, I believe that one of their problems is that their structure is not a physical structure like ours, and they literally have to rearrange molecules and so forth to assemble a three-dimensional matter-type substance or sphere to enter the Earth's atmosphere to explore us. And this is the phenomenon of why a spaceship seems to disappear and seems to disappear. And it probably takes a tremendous amount of energy for beings that can't be seen by satellites, infrared light, or any other method of early warning detection by any nation in the world, whether it's Russia or the United States or England, and then can suddenly appear in the skies, and the Air Force scrambles planes, fastest fighter planes in the world, to catch them, and then they seem to disappear. They have their form of stealth, just like we do. We have planes that can disappear, and they have planes that can disappear. They're called spaceships. They're just plain huge. But one of the things that works against, if they're aliens, these aliens, is the fact that they are not molecularly structured as Earthlings are.
And apparently, according to you, they do not have emotion. And so we have that over them, or under them, as it were. And if indeed we have emotion, and they do not, and yet we are a seed of them, then perhaps we are a genetic defect, as Dan has said. Dan, anything to add to this?
I believe there's a total of 3 planets involved. And I believe one of them is in our favor. The problem is, and people have to realize, is that there was a war fought on this planet. And there has been other skirmishes on this planet. That the United States government has been aware of it for quite some time, and it is in cooperation with one of them. There are skirmishes going on today. We are in a war. We are not involved in that war directly as a people yet, and it's about time we do.
Now, when you say these skirmishes and wars, what the hell's going on that we're not aware about? Skirmishes, I mean, you're saying that there are wars and skirmishes right now with alien races on this planet?
There's currently a skirmish going on. The war is over.
John.
I agree with him as far as what the satellites that I said earlier, SDI, Star Wars Defense Initiative, or Strategic Defense Initiative, have those satellites fired on extraterrestrial vehicles? The answer is yes.
Okay, so Dan, continue.
Let me point this out.
Please make it quick.
Let me get as quick as I can. I got to think for a minute here, but we did not go from computers the size of a building to a wristwatch overnight without help.
Okay, and with that, we will continue with this subject of alien races and the seeding of the planet Earth next time on Omnibus Unlimited. Omnibus Unlimited is a production of the Crescent Moon Club, and I would like to thank Tom Murray, psychic healer and medical technician from the Columbia Medical Associates in Boston, and I'd like to thank Dan Murray, independent researcher from Berlin, Massachusetts. This is Laurence Nobile saying thank you for your attention, good night, and good luck.